right, so for this first example, we are going to do a hypothesis test testing a claim about the death penalty. So in 2009, it was estimated that 63% of Americans supported the death penalty. In 2014, a Rasmussen poll found that in a random sample of 943 Americans, 538 supported the death penalty. Do we have evidence that support of the death penalty has declined among Americans since 2009? Use a significance level of 5%. All right, so our population, our capital N is all Americans. Our lowercase n is the amount that were sampled. So there were 943 Americans sampled. Right, our P naught is our original estimation. So our P naught is our 63%. Our P hat is what we get from our sample. We're actually not given a percentage, but we can calculate it. 538 divided by 943 gives us 0.57. Our level of significance, alpha equals, we're told 5%, so 0.05. Right, what we want to know, has the proportion we're asked declined? Right. Declined, again, we're thinking a less than symbol. All right, so our hypotheses. Our null hypothesis, P equals 0.63. Again, we're using our P naught. Our alternative hypothesis, has this declined? P less than 0.63. Right, step 2, check our conditions. In this particular case, we're going to skip checking our conditions. However, do remember, I'm just going to make a little note here. We're going to skip these. But if we were to go through, we are going to use, don't forget to use your P naught value when you're checking your conditions. So use your 0.63. All right, then we're going to compute to compare using StatCrunch. So when we're using StatCrunch and we do our computation, again, we're going into stat, proportion stats, one sample with summary. We're entering the number of successes and the number of observations in our sample. So RZ that we get is negative 3.82. Oops. Let's try this again. Negative 3.82. And our p-value that we get from StatCrunch actually gives us a less than 0.0001. Right? When we're entering our number of observations into StatCrunch, we can use the 538 since we were given that in this problem. I am going to make a little note here that if you aren't given your number of successes and you're given a percentage instead, we're going to use n times p hat if needed when entering things in a StatCrunch. So just a couple little helpful hints that are sitting over there. All right, now we need to decide our interpretation. So our p-value is less than 0.0001. If we compare that to our significance level, 0.0001 is less than our significance level. So our p-value is less than or equal to alpha. This tells us that we are going to reject our null hypothesis. So this tells us that we are going to reject our null hypothesis. All right, so if we go back up to our pair of hypotheses, that means we're going to cross off our null hypothesis, and we're going to circle our alternative hypothesis, right? And then our conclusion, right? We have that P is less than 0.63, so we can conclude that support for the death penalty has declined in Americans since 2009. Okay. So we go through our entire process, we reject our null hypothesis, so then we can conclude that our alternative hypothesis is true.